stand with us and say the pledge, please? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Melvin, let the record show everyone's present. Okay, first up is the consent agenda. Everybody reviewed? Need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Okay, next up, Jamie Watts, 911 dispatcher, AFSCME union president, discussion under decision on parking for 911 employees.
Yes.
You're up.
I know at this point it probably doesn't apply since the grand opening hasn't started yet, but we just want to know about dedicated parking spots for 911 dispatchers. Right now we're parking down at the employee parking, but there are times we come in at 2 a.m., 4 a.m., 6 a.m. when we come in and nobody's here and it's not shoveled or plowed. The cameras don't cover us walking in down there. Everybody else comes in during the day when court security's here or there's camera coverage. So we were just hoping that somewhere when you guys redesign the parking lot, that we have some type of dedicated parking that's just for dispatch, not administration or anything like that, but just the dispatchers that are working.
How many are you looking for?
Technically, we're supposed to have 7 that we run with. We're still a little shy of our number, so we're ideally 7, but at least 5.
What would your preference be?
7.
Well, where would you like them?
Ideally in the main lot, but I know that's not going to happen. We used to get the old police parking, so I don't know. I know planning has this across the street, so I don't know if we could have up against Regal's fence. So we have Regal that we have to walk past, which I don't know if you guys are aware. And then the apartments on the other side, you know, we've had 2 stabbings there in the last couple of years, so just a safety issue for us coming in. So ideally in the lot, because we'll be able to use the north door to enter into the 911 center. But if not, if we could even have spots up against that fence.
I'm going to defer to Jason.
What fence is it?
The one for Regals, I don't know who owns the actual
one
fence.
in the
Where all that heavy equipment is.
In the services building on, that's
Yes.
all gonna change here pretty soon for the public health facility.
Is that for 24/7, Jamie, or just for
Well,
the?
technically it's just the day shift people. The overnight people, unless they're working over, get to park where court security is. It's not an issue for them. And they're off at 6 a.m. so they can park in the main lot when that's open, if the gate's up, or they can park in court security and be right next to the building.
Okay.
It's just an issue if you come in overnight or those day shift people that are working over. Because especially in the winter, we come in when it's dark and we leave when it's dark.
What is it a 6 to 6 shift?
Yep.
So if you come in at 2 a.m., hypothetical, would you work to what, 6?
6 p.m.
Why would you come in at 2?
If somebody called out sick or there's overtime because we're short-staffed, if you have trade time with somebody, you come in to work till 10 p.m., work till 2 a.m., midnight. We work some odd hours.
You know, I think that kind of Jason hit it on the head is, you know, we've got construction on this lot that's gonna happen. We may have some construction over there that's gonna happen. We just don't have anything available right now.
And you're kind of asking for after the construction?
Yeah, we just want something like when you guys are doing the construction, something designated after that. I know we were parking in those 5 spots that are up against the fence in the main lot where it's not metered. But then there was an issue with one of the dispatchers left her car there when she was out of town for a week in Des Moines and they needed it moved. So,
Oops.
yeah.
Do you have anything
I
to
do not.
replace those or anything?
No, I guess the way I see it is, the comm center, they can park wherever they want from, 4:30 in the afternoon until 8 AM, the next morning. But as far as, parking during the business hours when we're open, I don't see how they're any different from any other county employee.
The problem is we don't have the ability to leave the center, to move our vehicles.
I think Jason's talking about any other employees. I think we got employees that's paying for parking across the street, so we have to be fair across the board.
No, I understand that, but every other employee gets to take a half an hour or an hour for lunch to leave. And we don't have that ability. When we're here, we're here. So we can, yes, you can come until 4:30, then you can go move your car somewhere, but we don't get to leave to move our cars. 3 PM to 6 PM is probably our busiest shift out of the entire 24 hours.
You got any questions, you
So,
guys?
yeah, unfortunately, we are county employees, but it's not the same as every other employee. We don't get to always get up and walk away from our desks or leave long enough to go move our vehicle. It can go from 0 to 100 in no time at all.
I feel that we had five lots before, correct?
Mhm.
I feel we ought to find 5 lots for you. That's what I think. Questions, comments?
No, I agree. We've got employees coming in the middle of the night, and they're coming to do a service for the county, and we need to protect their safety.
We just saw a crazy woman walking, screaming and running across the street this morning, right down the street,
Now imagine what they're like at 2 or 3
2 or
AM.
3 AM, I'm sure.
I think this is a conversation we should have once we know what we have to offer. I mean, we don't have anything.
Not today, we don't.
Yeah,
You
no, and I
and-
know with the construction, everything got kind of changed anyway. That's why we had scheduled it here before it got pushed back, so.
We have, all of our employees are important, Matt Wilbur's team prosecutes, prosecutes people, so his attorneys are at risk. Our assessor, they assess property, they're at risk. I mean, all of us are. I mean, so I just, I wanna be careful if we're gonna do anything like that. And I think
I
that's a
think-
discussion that can happen,
Yeah, I mean,
after.
if we do that, we're gonna have every other department coming to us wanting designated parking.
I think one of the biggest things that people aren't thinking too is every other employee, 99% when they're here, core security's here. If they need help, there's somebody there to help them. The police department's changing they're doing a trial run on proactive and reactive law enforcement. So after 3 or 4 AM, they're running with a minimum amount of people to patrol the city. So they're switching to 10-hour shifts. If we need help at 3 AM, the nearest deputy could be up in Minden. No police officers available, so there is a big difference between what we're asking for and a regular employee who's working that 8 to 4:30 shift. Where court security's here, if they need help. I've been followed to my car working over there by, I won't say his name, but by one of the meth guys that we work with a lot. Rode his bike right next to me and kept trying to talk to me, followed me all the way to my car. So it is a safety issue. The cameras don't cover us there. 2 AM, streets aren't plowed. 6 AM, streets aren't plowed. By the time every other employee comes in, those sidewalks are generally plowed, and it's no ice issue. I broke my back a couple of years ago falling on ice, not here. But there's a couple of different things where it's not the same as another employee because they're not 24-hour employees.
Anything?
Well, I think I'm glad she gave us the information. I think as we get the rest of this put together, we try to accommodate them the best we can. You know,
I would agree. My mother was a dispatcher, sheriff's dispatcher, worked at night, and her safety was his number one concern, certainly. I know what you're facing with that issue, so I totally agree.
Okay,
Thanks, guys.
take it into consideration. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Have a good
Thanks
day.
for coming up, Jamie. Okay, next up, Matt Wyatt, Director of Planning and Development. Discussion under decision to sign engagement letter with David Levy for updating wind and solar codes for Potawatomi County.
Yes, thank you for having us here today. I was actually tipped off to David by Jim Snore. He had watched what happened down in Mills County. They just had David come down there and help them update their wind and solar ordinances. Under normal circumstances, I would say that our office would be equipped to handle these revisions on our own. But with the circumstances that we're under, where we have 3 ongoing projects right now of companies out there seeking wind farm sites, and then at least 1 active solar farm out there, I think that we would definitely benefit by having David come in and help us update the ordinances as a process, because we have those ongoing projects, and make sure that we do it in the right way to where it doesn't trigger anything with any of the companies. I have already had Mid-American Energy reach out to me just because they saw it on the agenda. So I'm sure that they're gonna be paying close attention to it as we go through. You know, our wind ordinance is, we were one of the first ones in the state to adopt it. It happened in '07. I feel like it is a really good ordinance. It just needs to be updated with setbacks to meet what the state has. On the solar side of things, though, we don't really have an ordinance that is specific to solar, but we also have area considerations that have to be taken in. There was a JLA study done on Offutt Air Force Base, making sure that we are maintaining that flight path in a development way that is friendly to the air base, because we don't want to lose Offutt Air Force Base. So there's those considerations that need to be taken into effect of our solar ordinance as we go through it. And I think David's expertise of working with companies and working on the governmental side, Mills County was very happy with what he did. I think it would help us navigate our way through it.
Matt, would there be an estimate? I know he's got an hourly rate here, but time-wise, how long do you think that would take? Is there a cap on the billing?
I can't tell you that right now. I think that's gonna be the next step with working with him. They're gonna have to come in and see where we're at with things, and then I imagine that they'll give us an estimated cost of what it will take to bring everything up at that point, because they kind of need a baseline of where we're at first. He wanted the engagement letter up front because he wanted to be clear that he does work for energy companies, and he also does work for government entities. So he very well may, at some point in time, have to come back to Potawatomi County representing a company, and that's what the letter is for.
I feel it's a good proactive stance, and we do need to update and look these things over, because there are more developments coming in.
Right. And I can give you kind of an idea. So Mills County spent $60,000.
How much?
$60,000.
Just on their ordinances?
Yes.
Well, why don't we borrow Mills?
They-
No, I'm serious.
They,
They haven't got one in place already.
they,
How about sell us theirs?
do they have one? Ordinances now? Mills has got ordinances? I didn't think they did have ordinances.
They do.
They do have ordinances?
They have ordinances, yes. They don't, they've gotten rid of a lot of their enforcement of the ordinances.
So you got ordinances but no enforcing of them?
They're in a little bit, they're kind of in a weird spot.
Because they don't have any windmills down there, right?
Not to my knowledge, no.
I didn't think they did. We're in a little different situation. We have windmills already.
Correct.
The process that they went through, that was to stop windmill farms down there, is that correct? Yeah? I mean, they were wanting to discourage that.
That was their initial effort at it.
Oh, okay.
They came in with some really restrictive ordinances.
Height restrictions, for instance, that kind of
Yes,
thing?
that just made it unfeasible to do a project down there. Afterwards, they brought in Mr. Levy and updated what they had.
Matt, did they do the solar also?
Yes, because they have solar farms that are actively looking for land down there as well.
Matt, have you seen this? Did our legal team take a
The
look at it?
engagement letter,
Yes.
I have.
We-
And I know, I mean, I can say, I know Dave Levy. Weirdly, small world, my kid used to play club soccer with his kid years ago, so I knew him more as a soccer dad than as a lawyer. I mean, he's a good guy. Bear Home is a very well-respected law firm. I know Dave sits on, or at least he used to sit on the board of directors for Joslyn Castle over in Omaha, so, I mean, he's a solid guy. I don't know, 60,000 seems pretty high to me to draft up, a set of ordinances. But, you know, he's supposed to be billing by the hour, and if he's already got a skeleton put together now that he used Mills, I would think we would probably get some benefit from that, because he's not totally starting over, you know, on that as well. But, you know, I can only tell you what I know of him personally, which is that he's, you know, he's generally a good person.
I feel it'd be a good investment. I just think we've got a lot of people out there for and against windmills, solar, and we need to have some guidance, maybe some better guidance. So,
I myself, I'm thinking these windmills are getting to be an eyesore. You go by Avoca, you go up to Carroll, you know, you look, they're everywhere. They're just everywhere. You can't miss them. And, you know, they had a big complaint many years ago with billboards on the interstate, for instance. These are worse than billboards. I think they're just getting to be a visual nuisance. I really don't want to see this to be a growing industry here in Iowa myself, but that's just me.
it's going to be.
Well, and it's subsidized, it doesn't pay for itself. A lot of issues with windmills.
I would be interested in taking a look at that if he came back to us and give us a not to exceed number. I'm not going to, I personally am not gonna move forward with an open-end contract of, with the possibility of a $60,000 cost. I'm not gonna do that. He needs to come back with us and give us some kind of a ballpark number on where he's at with it.
Susan?
I think we can engage with Mr. Levy to update our existing wind turbine ordinances at the hourly rate of $4.37, because I don't think it will take him that many hours to say, you know, this needs to be tweaked, and these things are taller now, this needs to be the new setback. But with the solar, we're starting from ground zero, and we want to have the best ordinance in place to protect our land and our property owners. And maybe it's a two-part contract. Maybe it's we approve the wind turbines, but then we engage in another letter to do the solar ordinances. But I agree, we should be able to work with Mills County and learn from them as well.
So what's your living on expense then, Susan?
Well, I don't think it would be more than $10,000 to update our existing wind turbine ordinances.
Is that a motion not to exceed?
Sure, that's a motion not to exceed.
So then he would come back if it didn't get completed then we would have to decide whether there's more.
Or he would give us a quote at that time that this is what I did for the 10,000. This was the many hours that I reviewed your existing, compared it with what best practices are, and it will take another 15 hours to complete my assessment.
And then maybe will be able to give us a number for doing a solar ordinance then at that point too. Once he completes the wind one, is that what we're thinking?
Well, he talks about his hourly rates going up after July 1st
Right.
anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know how soon he would update the wind one, what would that expect? Well, a couple meetings with you, Matt, and then 2 weeks, month, 2 months? What would be an expectation of having it, some work product back, I
Well,
guess?
depending upon their workload and how they schedule in there, I wouldn't think it'd take longer than 30 days to get our initial draft back. And then, changes to the ordinance, as you know, they take, 2 different meetings.
Right.
So probably 60 days, 90 days in total to get them updated.
To update them on our side,
Right.
you'd have to go through, planning and, zoning ordinance.
The
That's
biggest
about a
question on that
25 hour,
is the part on
10,000, it'd be about 25 hours.
the change for while existing projects are going and making sure that that is handled in the right way so we don't wind up in a lawsuit over adopting these new ordinances midstream of a project. And if Dave has a way to get that done, then I'm all for it.
Well,
Because I don't know how long you allow these projects to say that they're ongoing. I mean, the Mid-American project's 2-3 years now that it's been out there. There's one before that that's probably 5 years out of trying to seek out land leases on those. So to me, there has to be some sort of a cap on that to say, okay, listen, you've been going for 12 months now. We haven't seen an application for submittal to our office, so therefore, we have, in the meantime, we have updated some rules and regulations that we have on that, and we're okay to move forward with that. So that's the biggest piece that I'm hoping to learn on that.
but that's not, unlike, you know, if I pull a permit to build a house, 12 months later, if I haven't built the house, I have to either ask for an extension or get another permit or something, or is it 9 months or whatever it is, right?
We do have that established in the building code part of it, where you have 6 months to begin your project. Within that, you know, if it's a permitted project, they haven't began construction within that 6 months, and say that there was a code change that came down through, it would be allowable by us to go back and review that plan and say, it doesn't meet this portion of it, so,
We'd have to define what is starting a project for them.
right.
I mean, getting one lease, I guess, shouldn't be.
And I'm fine, yeah, if we do it one step at a time, that's great too. We can start with the wind, see how it goes, move to the solar.
I have 2 thoughts on sort of the fees. I think the initial cap isn't a bad idea at all. If Dave doesn't feel like he can operate under those circumstances, then he won't sign a contract, right? I mean, that's sort of that's the beauty of a contract. If he feels like he needs more than that to get started, then I think he could probably come here and make his pitch. But I'd also just like to remind the board that when I hear things like 60,000 in fees, and you're talking about ordinances and all this, you have a lot of control over those costs. If you're not all on the same page, then you spend a lot of time arguing over heights and turbine width and all this. The more that you feel like you need to chime in, the more that another attorney is gonna have to say, okay, I gotta go back and redraft. So just bear that in mind, that you have some control, depending on how involved you wanna be in that process, over what your bill is. Like, I'm on salary, I'm not volunteering for this because this is above my pay grade. But my point is that when you give me projects, it really doesn't matter, because I get paid the same whether it takes me 20 hours or 2 hours. And if you make me go back and do 5 drafts, it doesn't cost you anything. There is a price to pay for you being involved. I'm not suggesting you shouldn't be, just want to suggest that if you're interested in keeping costs down, then you need to trust your lawyer and your planning director on whatever the ordinances come back with, because every time you tinker, that's gonna cost you thousands of dollars.
I do think we need this. However it turns out, we need some guidance on this, because we're not experts in the wind or solar industry.
It's, what did you say, 2007?
Correct.
So, I mean,
That's
there's been a lot of
16 years.
There's been a lot of changes in a lot of different areas since 2007, in the solar and wind and pipeline and all that stuff. So, I think it's worth, I guess, engaging with, suggesting of capping it at that. Like I said, we're a little different. We've got them in place, so I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not sure how, that works now that you've got them already and that they have the ability to retool those ones that exist and that type of thing, so.
Is that a second?
Oh,
So,
is that what her motion is?
so the motion is to approve updating our wind ordinances with Baird Home for their contracted rate of $430 with a cap at $10,000. And when that cap is expended, just understand how much is left to be done. That doesn't make sense.
It did. I
Well,
followed you.
No, it just need, I'm with
The
you,
cap at
Susan, it just
10,000.
needs to be a cap, flat cap,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, and maybe, and I don't know, if it'd be reasonable to ask for a monthly update on the accounting of it or something. So you know where you're
Matt,
at.
do you feel 10,000 would be? What's your feeling on that?
I don't know how complex our ordinances are, I gotta be honest, you know,
Yeah.
in looking at them, so. It's 10,000, I mean, if you're saying 25 hours, it doesn't take too long to burn through 25 hours
Yeah.
of time. But I think you certainly, for that price, ought to have a pretty good handle on what is the current status of our ordinances, where do they need tweaked, and if it looks like there's gonna be a substantial outlay to modify them, then he ought to at least be able to give us a, cost estimate of that.
Okay.
I mean, I think he should be able to evaluate our ordinances absolutely for that price, and if it looks like it's minor tweaks, he could probably do it all for that price. If it looks like it's a wholesale, overhauling of those ordinances, then I think he probably needs to come in here and make that pitch to the board about why that's important.
That's just what I was gonna ask. Would he be willing to come in here and talk to us and do that presentation?
Remember, that's one of his hours.
Yeah.
It's one of his hours.
He should be doing that for free if he wants to contract. Well, I'm kind of with Susan. I think that, you know, if Matt believes that, or let me rephrase that, if the gentleman redid Mills County's ordinances, it should be pretty simple to do ours then.
Yeah, maybe the question to ask him is, would Mills County fit Ottawatomie County? I mean, what would be the difference?
Probably not, because they've never had any.
That's what I was gonna ask. Did they have an ordinance before this? Do you know?
I don't think so.
No.
So
they
because
started
don't
from
have any
scratch.
windmills down there.
Okay.
And it, you know, that hasn't, I mean, theirs, just like ours would, could have to be, the potential to be challenged in court.
Sure, all ordinances have that
Right.
opportunity.
Yeah. So,
Which, if we got 3 different projects out there that come to fruition, this could be a wise investment. So I got a motion to not exceed 10,000 for the wind ordinance. And
Susan, can I ask you, would you, your motion is to, approve the engagement letter with Dave Levy, with the clause in it that says cost will not exceed 10,000.
Yes,
So you're gonna add that to the letter.
yes, and remove the solar ordinances from the letter. We're just going to, for the 10,000, start with the wind and update our existing ordinances.
Matt, do we have a solar ready to go? A project ready to go?
No, but I was contacted by a property owner
Yeah.
who has signed on 600 acres of his ground. And he knew his neighbor was signing on for another 400 acres of their ground. So there is a large one that is out there.
Did this gentleman do a wind and solar ordinance for Mills?
Yes.
I'm
We
worried
need both, we need both.
I would.
I really agree to that.
Solar. I just leave it in there. But, that's your motion.
I really think we ought to proceed with the
So-
solar. Something.
So without us having a solar ordinance, what does that just give them people carte blanche to go do whatever they want then?
No, we would handle it as, accessory structures through the building permit process. But what we don't have in there, what you would see in there, in a lot of them is, potential bonding on the company to have to remove them if they ever abandon the site.
Exactly.
The glare piece of it would be in there as well. And some setbacks specific to the arrays. Now, we would have to use our setbacks as far as accessory structures on commercial, because that's what it would be permitted as, an accessory commercial structure on every one of them. So the setbacks would be complicated for them.
And what does that do to our infrastructure? Those, I know that the towers were very hard on our infrastructure. I don't know so much about solar and stuff, so.
I'm sure it's gonna be a lot, it would be similar to that. I mean, you'd have a lot of traffic for those construction period times, and a lot of it would be heavy traffic because they would be a lot of concrete that would be being put in on the site. It may not be as much concrete as what goes in around those wind turbines, but it would still be a lot.
Well, we'd wanna control that too.
A lot of those, and then of course the roads are looking at are gravel.
I shouldn't say control it, maybe oversee it, or dedicate the routes and weights or whatever we can control, I guess, so. So I don't know, how do you want it? You wanna try to tackle them both at one time?
I feel we should, Scott, and I don't know if 10,000's enough.
Need to raise the cap.
You wanna
It
go
might,
What do you wanna go to, 20?
I'm okay starting with 10, and then if we hit 10, I come back in, we.
with
update.
wind and solar both?
Yeah, we come in, we update what's going on, and would assume, as Matt has said, he's gonna come in, he's gonna review them, and he's really gonna be able to give us an estimate and say, hey, listen, this is where your ordinances are at, this is what it's really gonna cost us, and people time to be able to get them to where they need to be.
Okay.
Because a lot of times when the attorneys sign on for this, right, then they're gonna be at the public hearing for that. They're going to, draft up the ordinances will be drafted up, the notifications for the public are gonna be drafted up. And it may be, I don't think so much with our wind, they probably did with wind down there where they had to have stakeholder meetings and the public was able to come in and the companies were able to come in. For the wind side of it, I don't know that we need to do that because we have wind ordinances in place and we have turbines there. For the solar side of it though, they may suggest to us, we should probably hold a public meeting on this and bring the stakeholders in and talk about it. And we can either accept that recommendation or we don't have to. We can say, no, let's just move forward without that part of it. But
So you feel 10 may cover us with wind and solar?
no, I'm just saying 10's a fine place to start.
He should be able to evaluate
Yes.
our current ordinances
Okay.
for $10,000 for wind and solar. I doubt seriously 10 will cover it all, but he certainly should be able to give you an educated, opinion as to the current state of our ordinances and what work it will take to update them. And then if you're happy with that, then you can sign a future contract.
Okay.
And if you're not, then you can move on.
Okay.
So I think 10 for wind and solar to get started to me, seems reasonable.
All right.
All right.
It's your motion.
All right, so we're moving forward with the 10,000 cap for solar and wind.
Solar and wind, okay? Okay.
Did you get a second for that?
Well, I'll second
Not
it.
yet. Okay. Got a motion to approve up to 10,000 from Miller and seconded by Belt. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same signal. Motion carried. It's a good start.
Call Jim Snore.
I will.
Oh, you're gonna too?
Yeah, I talked to him yesterday.
Oh, good.
He left a voicemail for me as well. He talked about our prior conversation. I'm like, I think you went to the wrong Matt W. Who's that one? Like, I've never talked about it.
That's good,
Several
though.
times.
We need that guidance. Okay, next up, Melvin Hauser, Auditor, discussion and or decision to approve and authorize board to sign resolution number 45-2023 entitled Resolution to Call Special Election. Melvin.
Okay, it's just part of the process. We got the petition last week and sent the chairman a letter and got this resolution which would direct us to hold the election. Just part of the process.
Okay. And that's on August 1st.
August 1st, all of that, and on this election is spelled out in the state code. And there's only one way to do it.
Okay.
The verbiage on the ballot is in state code, first Tuesday in August.
Okay.
And early voting starts when?
Early voting will start July 12th, 20 days before the election. You can request absentee ballots now, up to 70 days before, which is now. The ballots will be mailed out on July 12th. They can start voting at the counter on July 12th. And July 17th is the last day to mail out. But we can vote at the counter up until the Monday before the election.
Okay.
And the polls are open 7 a.m. until 8 p.m.
Yes.
And that's first.
We're gonna try to get all the precincts open, but in August, there's a lot of a lot of fairs, there's a lot of vacations. So Jody's struggling finding poll workers. So we may have to combine some polling sites. But we'll know that whenever we find out who's committed to
Okay.
vote. And some of the polling sites have changed. We've got a few new churches. And I think about 3 sites have changed within the city or close.
Are voters aware of that?
They will be when we figure out where the sites are.
So if you combine a precinct with another one, do you send notices to those people that you're not voting at your usual place anymore, you're going to
I
this
think
one?
it'll be posted in the paper. We have to post this in the paper 3 times before the election. So we have to know like 3 weeks before.
Paper only comes out 3 times.
I think that's starting
So
July
you don't
1st.
For 3
you don't
weeks.
send them a personal
No,
letter or a card or anything?
no. No, never have. It just has to be posted in the paper and it'll, of course, be on the website. And, polling place changes.
Okay.
Matt, and you'll tell me if I can ask or say anything about this. In one regard, this is not, this process and these options to vote for on this resolution are done by population, not by land.
Correct.
That's accurate, right?
You're saying if Plan 2 or Plan 3 was passed, then any districts would be divided by equal population or not. So you'd have roughly 4 Council Bluffs districts, including suburbs. That's about the only way to do that, and 1 rural district.
And there's a group of people put together that put that map together then, or?
The only map I'm aware of is one that GIS put together based on the census numbers and the compactness. That wouldn't be an official map until a districting commission passed it. I feel it's probably pretty close to what it is, but you couldn't represent that is the district map because the process is that you have the election. After the election is passed, if it passes with Plan 2 or Plan 3, then the board appoints some members of a districting commission. It could be 3, 5, or 7 members. You would have the majority of those. Since there's no Democrats on the board, the Democrat county chair would appoint the minority interest, so if it was let's just say it's a 5-person commission, you would appoint 3, the county Democratic Party chair would appoint 2 to that commission, and then that would be your districting commission, and then they have to then come up with the districts based on the requirements of the Iowa Code,
Follow the rules
which is
by
it has to be-
precinct.
yeah, equal population, compact districts, you can't have weird-looking submarine I mean, you gotta keep them roughly square, you know, the best you can. Height, width supposed to be about equal, they have to be contiguous to each other, so you can't have, you know, Iowa's laws are pretty clear, they're trying to avoid gerrymandering of districts, and so that's sort of just how that has to go.
The way I read it, and, like I said, tell me if I'm getting out of bounds, was the only city in Pot County that could be really, broke into, districts was Council Bluffs.
Council Bluffs would have to, because with our population, you have, I mean, the ideal district, you know, dividing the county by, you know, population by 5, it's somewhere between 18 and 19,000 per district. Council Bluffs population is a little north of 60,000, and so Council Bluffs would have to be divided into 4 districts. They try to keep those roughly equal population. Carter Lake would have to be attached to one of those, because you can't have it has to be something that it's borders. And so if you add Carter Lake and Council Bluffs, I think you're probably close to 70,000 people in that, you know, vicinity. So that just sort of roughly tells you, you know, how your districts are going to be. But again, nothing is formal until districting commission.
Matt, I have a question. Okay, so you've got, say you have 4 county supervisors that basically would cover Council Bluffs. County supervisors oversee county agencies and departments. But Council Bluffs is its own entity, governmental entity. So what would they be overseeing in their district in Council Bluffs? What
No
county?
different job, just as residency requirements, no different job. You still would have to decide budget for roads, budget for sheriff, budget for all the departments.
But none of that would apply to the district that they represent, because that's a city agency, correct?
Partially, I mean, obviously the recorder serves everybody in the county, right?
Okay.
Sheriff less
Do
so.
city dwellers pay county taxes?
Yes. They do not pay the rural levy, but they pay the same general levy that everybody pays.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, go ahead, or go, I have one more question.
Yep.
So hypothetically, you can, based on the rules for the, what do you call it, districting committee, or?
It's called the Temporary Redistricting Commission. That's
Okay,
what's set
the
up by code.
temporary district commission, put on their hat and put some scenarios together based on the rules they must follow, and then use that work product, as long as you put the word draft or something on it, can you use that as a visual aid?
Well, I mean, I don't think there's any question. I mean, any map draft at this point is hypothetical.
Right, so
Right,
I mean,
that's,
do you have to notify that that's what it is? I mean,
I think you're asking more of a political question than a legal question at this point.
Okay.
I mean, if it's for informational purposes, I mean, using a graphic like that for informational purposes
Right.
to say that this is roughly what the districts would look at, I don't see that there's any issue with that. But to represent that the district, this is what the map will look like. I mean, I've seen the map. I know the graphic you're talking about. I mean, the big green District 1 is almost certainly very close to accurate. I mean, just because of what has to happen with Council Bluffs. But I can't at all speak to how accurate districts 2, 3, 4, 5 would be. You could divide Council Bluffs into a north, you know, you could divide it like this, you could divide it like this. I mean, but you have to have 4 districts that encompass Council Bluffs, because the Iowa Code 49.3 requires that cities be divided into the fewest districts possible. And those need to be roughly equal. So Council Bluffs being 60, I don't know what it is, 62, 63,000. you're going to have roughly 15 or 16,000 people from Council Bluffs in 4 different districts. So that roughly means you have to pull in Garner, Lewis, and probably Carter Lake to round out those 4. But that's, again, I mean, that's just for them to follow the law, which they're gonna have to do, because anything would be subject to challenge if they did not. But to say that when I look at that map, like that District 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5, that that's exactly how they're gonna look, I don't think that'd be accurate, because you don't know yet.
Right.
Matt, in the code, does that district, do those districts last a certain time, or do they?
Sure, that's a good question. So, I think it's, if you look at then, every year that starts with 1, then they redistrict. It's just like the state does that, with
Okay.
the state representatives and districts as well.
There was a lot of Plan 3 counties last year that had to redistrict.
Yeah, so
Supervisors got thrown into the same districts and.
Yeah.
had
in 31,
issues with
there would be a new temporary redistricting commission that would be appointed. If Plan 2 or 3 passes, then in 2031, using the 2030 census numbers, there would be a redistricting that would happen again. But these districts would last from the election of 24, so 24, 26, 28, and 20 would all be under whatever this district commission would come up with if Plan 2 or 3 passes. And then there would be new districts that would, that would change in 30.
And then how do they decide who's gonna be 2-year and who's gonna be 4-year?
I'm not sure exactly, I haven't got that far into the code on it. I mean, I've seen draw by lot, I mean, regardless, all 5, if Plan 2 or Plan 3 passes, all 5 supervisor positions would be up for election in 24. 2 of you or 3 of you would have 2-year, or 2, I shouldn't say you, 2 of the positions or 3 of the positions would have 2-year terms, 2 would have 4, and then after the next 2, then everybody would be on the regular 4-year rotation. So you'd have, it's not like everybody's gonna be up for the next, every 2 years, but half of the board roughly would be elected for 2 years, half for 4, and then the next 2 years, they'd be reelected for 4, and then you're back onto the same rotation. It just takes a few years to get that sort of process worked out.
Okay, Melvin, a couple questions for you. Does the Iowa code allow you to combine precincts?
The precincts aren't combined, the polling sites are.
Does the Iowa code allow you to do that?
Yeah, we've done it. We've had, you go to New Horizons Church on Valley View, we'll have 3 precincts voting in that one polling site.
Yeah, but people have been doing it for years.
Yeah.
Are there any notification requirements for a special situation like that?
The notification is 3 publications, 3 weeks before the election.
In a paper?
That's what the code says. But we'll get it on the website. Hopefully we can find, workers that will work. I think McClellan has been an issue for Jody and Walnut so far. But she's got a batch of other, substitutes, I'm guessing. I think, doesn't Jody have quite a few that she can call on? It's just a matter of, hopefully we can get them staffed.
Be a great job for a college student for one day.
There you go.
Yep.
No, the ideal situation would be to have election day a holiday so that, teachers could use I'm just dreaming, so that some of the teachers could work at their schoolhouse. You can close, that's why we can't go to schoolhouses, because of the safety issue. And, the Crescent School had problems with all the people coming in with the little kids there. And but if you could open up a gymnasium, you could have multiple precincts there at Longfellow or Wilson or TJ. That would be the
But,
dreaming.
this is in August, not November,
I know.
so school's not open yet.
But find people now and get them trained. I don't know, is Jody planning on any training before August 1st?
Okay, I just
Yeah.
wanna make sure that we do everything we can to, if we have to make a change like that.
We don't wanna and that's why we're opening all 40, is because that's what people are used to. And we're doing that for the city school election. We'll do it for the general elections next year, and just so everybody knows where they go. Used to be if I was gonna vote for the school board, I went to Macedonia, but on a general election, I went to the church. People always, Wheeler Grove Church. And, you know, people were always confused, but now we have it. All elections and all precincts have the same polling sites.
Melvin, have we ever had a special election in Pot County for anything that you know of?
Yeah,
We have?
we have. We did a bond issue for the Veterans Building.
Okay.
That was a countywide.
What kind of a turnout would you expect in a special election?
Well, you're a better political analyst than I am, but for,
I'm guessing it'd be.
for a school referendum, they're usually pretty high. For Iowa Western, they were pretty low.
Okay.
And this one, well, the people that are campaigning for Plan 3 are working very hard
Yeah.
to get voters out, so. We don't know. That's why when I was discussing with Christie this morning, how many ballots should we order? 40,000, 20,000? I don't know.
So
Okay.
you'll have an election in August, September. Is
No.
school in September still?
No,
No.
city and school are
But
together.
there is an option for a September election.
No, it's October.
But you could have a primary too, right?
In October. So there is in the law where they can have a September special, so like a school could do a September,
Oh,
but, right.
so you're gonna have August, October, and November for sure.
Well, October is, that's still iffy. Depends on how many city councilor.
They
Is the
never
mayor up
combine
this
it.
year?
Okay,
Yes.
I'm sorry to take the discussion.
And we
over.
do have,
That's okay.
planned for the precincts that we changed from the general election that got changed here in town, that we had to change. We do have planned to send them a card telling them where their new precinct is. So I do have that in plan of the 3 that we had to move, of sending them a card out. It's
Okay.
Garner, 13 and 18, I believe.
Okay.
To send them a card telling them where their new polling location will be. So,
One more question, Supervisor.
That'd be fine.
Melvin, what's your anticipated cost for this election? Any idea?
Countywide has always cost around 100,000. This might be a little bit less than the general because, there's the programming is gonna be a lot simpler. We're just gonna have one ballot. And so the programming and the cost of that is gonna be less.
Okay.
So it's paper costs.
It'll be paper costs
That's
and,
it.
well,
And
no, the
postage for mailing.
postage and then, you gotta
Okay.
pay the,
Anyway, around 100 grand.
around 100 grand.
When you.
It might be less.
When you post this 3 times in the paper, is that all papers, all county papers?
Yeah.
Or just, okay,
Yeah.
so the paper's out. in the,
All three of them.
They both have.
Okay, so does anybody want to make a motion to approve resolution 45-2023 for calling for a special election?
So moved.
What would be the, if there was that?
I'll second it. We don't have a choice.
That's right.
I was gonna say, what would be the
So we
option?
can file a writ of mandamus against you, forcing you to make a decision.
Who would?
Anyone, any
Oh.
citizen can file a mandamus action for you refusing to do your duty.
Okay.
Let's, Melvin, will you do a roll call?
Well, we could, vote nays.
That's your decision?
No. No, I'd say
I don't know.
abstain,
Why don't
I
we
might
try it and find out and see what happens?
financially gain from this.
Chairman Shea,
Aye.
Supervisors Bell,
Aye.
Wickman,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
and Jorgensen.
Reluctantly, aye.
Okay. Motion carried.
Thank you. Now we know what we're gonna do.
Okay. Next up, Becky Linehan.
She's still down in the back, but I
Okay.
think we kind of know what the issue is.
Let me go over this.
All right.
Finance and Tax Officer, Auditor's Office, and Chris Wood, Program Coordinator, WIC. Discussion under decision to reappropriate funds from Board of Supervisors, Department 01, to WIC, Department 48, to sign resolution number 43, 2023 regarding said reapportion.
Okay, so, what we should have done was, do a budget amendment, but it's too late for that because of publishing requirements and public hearing. It should have been on some of those we had, but we missed that. So the state auditor says just, reappropriate some money within that service area between those two departments. And that will kind of, clean up the clerical issue. There won't be any money transfer, it's just, more of a clerical thing, or,
Yeah, so.
are you understanding this
Yeah, a little bit.
also?
So like I said, there's no cash moving from the general fund into WIC or anything along those lines. All the expenses are still coming out of WIC's Fund 05 like normal. But what this is doing is saying, you know, the board had budgeted so much money in this service area, and we're not gonna use all of it between now and the end of June. So let's take part of our budget and give them part of our budget. That's all we're doing. So the paperwork all stays the same. There's no, like I said, there's no funds or money transfer, anything along those lines. But the board is giving them part of what they had in their budget for service area 3.
This is a regular practice.
No, it's not.
Never been done before.
It should have been. Usually they get caught in when we do our amendments, which we do twice a year. But it was missed, so, and then, you know, so it's the 16,105 that gets reappropriated. That just basically is enough to take care of the very last payrolls gonna happen in June, so.
Okay.
They are, they're a federal agency, their budget runs from September to September. They're 53,000 in the hole right now. This resolution specifically says it's gonna be reappropriated from our budget, our county taxpayer dollar budget, to a federal department.
If I can,
Funded entirely by the federal department.
It's funded through the state of Iowa, just like, and they're part of the public health, right? WIC has to be underneath of the Board of Health in order to receive their funding. That happened a couple of years ago. WIC moved underneath the Board of Health so they could keep with their grant dollars that they have because they get it through Iowa Department of Public Health. It's a competitive grant that just expanded their service area. And so their grant though is reimbursable, just like our funds are reimbursable. So everything that you spend your money, you submit your reimbursements to the state, hopefully the state gets you back the money within 30 days. They've gotten pretty good about it. What the state has changed recently, because of the way they're changing their service areas that they have, is that they're calling us a lot more, telling us we have more funds for you. So what Maria had done is had gotten a lot better working with Mitch and Becky, sending emails ahead of time saying, hey, we're gonna have to do another budget amendment. The state has updated our grant contract again. I think that's like what Mitch said, that was the part with WIC, it got missed. You know, WIC's service area just expanded out. Potawatomi County became the regional hub for WIC, so they took on all these other counties. The funds, I don't think, have quite settled out yet, so they're calling, saying, hey, we have more money to spend. And instead of getting that budget amendment done in time, but they are underneath of the Board of Health, and that is how they get their funding. They're really no different than public health.
Matt, why do they run September to September?
Federal.
Well, we have funds that run that same way, right, through our STI program. When it comes to public health and things like WIC, because of the number of funding sources that the funds come from, they often are times on different schedules than ours. It's just a contracted piece that comes from the state. It says this is when we're gonna fund you.
The WIC funding is based on the federal fiscal year.
So if they're $53,000 behind, and that was our report last week, I haven't seen it this week. What's the scoop with 16 grand?
That's about what they need to finish out payroll and pay their expected claims until the end of the year.
We may be getting some of that 50, you know, because they always run negative, right? So then we get reimbursed fee of the state from the feds. So we've may taken some of that money in already. That 57,000 that you see in the fund balance has no reflection over this budget number that we're talking about. This
The fund balance is the cash number that's going in and out of the reimbursements. So you're not gonna see any money spent from the general fund to cover the 16,000. That's not gonna automatically go 16,000 further negative. Basically, it's allowing them to spend that last payroll without breaking budget because we're apportioning part of the board's budget into it.
So, we've never done this before.
And
We
we'll
are,
do it.
what?
And we plan on not doing it again.
We are taking county dollars to fund a federal program.
We are not.
No.
It says right here, we're reappropriating money out of the Board of Supervisors' budget, our department, for a federal program. What am I missing?
But it's a very needed program within Potawatomi
I
County.
understand that.
You know, there's 2,600 families within Potawatomi County that utilize this, and it's reimbursable. So this is, yes, you're gonna put some money over there to cover through the expenses, but that expense is gonna get reimbursed to the county.
Anything
Do you
that-
trust the federal government? No, really.
They're
We've never
not-
done it before. I don't know what the issue is. We've never used county dollars
Only because
in a
that budget
federal
never got
program.
Yeah, this is just a stopgap, because if we had done the budget amendment, we've done budget amendments before where they got more grant dollars, and it was more of a clerical thing to satisfy the state audit. And since we did miss that, this is kind of a stopgap to reappropriate. Now, last week we did an appropriation, and I can't remember what it was.
Debt service.
Who missed
What was it?
budget
That's
amendment?
Debt service.
That
Debt
part I
service.
can't tell you.
Yeah, I mean, that's just another method, clerical method of keeping your budget squared away. Because, and that service area, because WIC is within our budget, and we're just trying to keep the numbers right without really any cash moving. But for the auditors, they need to see that in the black.
Who missed the budget amendment?
Well, we all did.
We're not always aware when grants get awarded either. So, I mean, that's why they've been
It
pretty
was,
good on letting us know.
when WIC did their reestimate, because they had extra money come in and hired a couple of more nurses or something, WIC did.
Yeah, they brought on some new people.
They brought on some more staff, and that's where the reestimate went up. And it was just missed it, I guess.
So this is a one-time thing?
Yeah. No, it's just to kind of clean up and make the books look okay for the state audit. Am I wrong,
This was the
Mitch?
recommendation of the state auditors.
But you're not really moving any money from your department, any cash, but it's just kind of a clerical adjustment. It's hard for me to understand it, but this is what I'm gathering.
I still don't. Anytime when you take money out of a board's budget and give it to the federal government for a program, that to me is that we're using taxpayer dollars to fund a program.
Tim, if I could offer some clarification.
Absolutely.
The WIC budget is just another county budget that we have allocated for our funds. They're not a federal department, they're not federal employees. They just get reimbursed through a federal grant.
Right.
Okay.
The only thing we do for WIC is provide a payroll.
No, they're under the Board of Health.
We don't see all their expenses, do we, Matt?
We can. But
I'm not gonna argue about it. I don't like it, so that's okay.
Well, I mean, how much fund balance or is the board gonna have in their budget? Probably quite a bit.
Yes.
And on July 1st, that money goes into fund balance. Goes into the general fund. So that money's gonna be gone out of your budget anyway. It'll go into fund balance.
And then when do we get reimbursed?
I mean,
You
that's,
don't, because you started at zero.
well,
you don't.
the negative 57,000 that fund shows, we always get reimbursed for that. It's always ongoing. They're always a quarter behind, it always seems like, so it's always floats in there. So it still comes in, so even the extra 16 that they anticipate spending now in the end of the year, we still get that back. It's just we're agreeing to front an extra 16,000 now compared to what they asked for in their budget. That is all we're doing.
So what we need to do next spring is, be a little more diligent on figuring out what our budget amendments need to be. That one just got
Yeah,
missed.
the grants are tough, because you don't know when they get awarded, and all of a
Right,
sudden, that's
right.
a new expense,
Yeah.
so.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution number 43-2023.
Okay.
I'll second.
Thanks, Jeff.
Melvin, will you do a roll call?
You bet. Chairman Shay,
Aye.
Supervisors Belt.
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Jorgensen,
Aye.
Wickman.
Yay.
Thanks for that explanation.
We did the best we could. Thanks, Mitch. Thanks, Maria.
Thank you, Marie.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt.
Hi.
Okay, another one up. Becky Linehan, Finance and Tax Office, Auditor's Office. Discussion under decision to approve and authorize board to sign Resolution 40-2023 entitled Resolution for Transfer from Living Lust Group Fund to County Conservation Land Acquisition Fund, which,
Are you familiar with what Living Lust was?
yeah, and it was only like, here, $503.51.
Well, it's 500 and Dixie figured out the interest, $507.30.
Correct.
And, yeah, Living Lust since the pandemic has not been doing anything. It was a partnership, Susan, between Honey Creek Creamery, Hitchcock Nature Center. I think Does and Divas was in there for a while, Iowa Farms, and it was kind of a tourist thing. You get a passport and go to all these various sites up there north of Crescent. But they're pretty much defunct. We're just cleaning up the fund. You'll still see it for the next 3 years on your budget sheets until it finally goes away.
Okay,
They need to amend that amount to 507.30.
okay.
Then we can't close that fund.
Yeah, that's what we're doing, but
Yeah.
it still shows up as history on your budget.
I got you now, okay.
I'll make that motion for board resolution 40-2023, transferring Living Lust Group Fund to County Conservation Land Acquisition Fund for 507.30. Is that correct? Yeah, $507.30.
Second.
Okay. Melvin?
Okay, Chairman Shay,
Aye.
Supervisors Bell,
Aye.
Wickman,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Jorgensen.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh dear. Dixie? I missed her.
She left.
Do you want her?
Yeah.
Okay, next up, discussion under decision to approve and authorize chairman to sign rural transit system joint participation agreement with SWIPCO and approve funding request in the amount of $6,000.
And thank you for attaching attachment A that we didn't have last week. And I will make the motion to approve the SWIPCO agreement.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same motion. Motion carried. Jenna Lemrick, Director of Human Resources, discussion under decision to approve and authorize board to sign 2023 to 2026 union contract between the Pottawatomie County and Pottawatomie County Sheriff's Deputies Association. Thank you.
All right, so I'll go over the changes with you. The first change is on page 12. when we're referring to hours of work, we wanted to call attention there because this contract has uniformed officers and then office staff as well. And so that is just signifying that office staff hours of work are different from those in uniform. Number 2 is on page 15.
And going back to the hours of work,
Yes.
so deputy is singular and corporals is plural. Is there one deputy or is it deputies?
No, we have multiple deputies. Deputies and corporals. I can sure change that to deputies.
Thank you.
Page 15, in regards to the comp time, to be honest with you, I'm not sure why it ever said that the max we would pay out for comp time is 80 hours, because you can't. If we allow them to earn comp time, if they should then leave, we have to pay out everything that they have earned. So I'm not sure why that was ever written in there that way, but we just changed it so that all comp time earned will be paid out upon your final paycheck. Okay, then we have page 17, where we added the floating holiday into holidays. Page 18 just describes that floating holiday, very similar to how the employee handbook does. Next is page 32, where we talk about working out of class. We just made that match the employee handbook, so if you're working out of class for 5 consecutive days, then you get the out of class pay. Theirs was 10 days, and so we just made it match the employee handbook. The next change is on page 33 in regards to insurance. The deputies is the union contract that does still have insurance in there, and so we changed it, so it's the second paragraph that talks about maximum cannot exceed. We changed it from $220 to $250. And we're hoping to build that little cushion in there so that we won't have to come back and reopen the contract if benefits should go up. We just don't know, but we can reopen the contract to discuss benefits if our rates go up enough that we surpass the $250. Next is page 37, uniform allowance. We increased uniform allowance from $750 to $1,000. And the difference is that the deputies will no longer have to turn in their receipts for reimbursement, that we're just giving them $1,000 on a paycheck. And then appropriate taxes will apply.
Can we delete that word your paycheck and just make it added to the paycheck? Or to employee's paycheck or something?
Sure.
Your just sounds kind of out of text.
I'll change it to employee's paycheck. And appropriate taxes will apply.
Sure, okay. Thank you.
Page 38 talks about wages. So this contract goes through 2026, but wages are only for 1 year. The contract will be reopened for a wage reopener each year until 2026. For this next year, the wage scale is attached at the back. The wage scale will apply for an approximate 8% pay increase. That's for uniformed officers. Office staff and non-uniformed officers are receiving a 3.5% pay increase. The next is on page 50. Shift differential. We raised that from 90 cents to $1. And then finally on page 53 and the back, and then 54, we just clarified and add a little bit of wording to talk about secondary employment, because there's secondary employment and off-duty employment. So one would be, like I'm a sheriff's deputy and I have a secondary job, I mow lawns, that's my own business. Versus I'm a sheriff's deputy, but I also work security at Hy-Vee, but we have that contract with Potawatomi County. So I'm not on duty, but yet I'm still working and doing something that's off duty, but still related to the role and the contract that the county has. So the deputies just wanted a little bit of different wording in there. And that's it.
Do you have a list of those then?
Secondary employment or off-duty employment?
Well, more so the secondary rather than the off-duty.
Any employee should fill out a form if they
Okay.
have a job, and then, sometimes they make it back to HR and go in their personnel file, but I believe that Andy keeps track of all of that for his employees.
You said a contract, so is it individually contract with Hy-Vee individual?
I don't know the details to that.
Oh, okay.
That brings up a good point, Scott. Let's just say that we do have a deputy working for Hy-Vee.
Mhm.
Does Hy-Vee pay the deputy or Potawatomi County?
That's a good question, I don't know the answer to that.
Is the county at risk? If they do something at Hy-Vee wearing their uniform? I shouldn't use Hy-Vee, somewhere else.
Okay.
Well, I used Hy-Vee because I thought that was a real thing, but maybe it's not.
No, it is. It is, they bid, I think
Yeah.
they bid that out. Hy-Vee does, I
Yeah.
think.
I can
mean,
look into it a little bit more, I've never actually seen what they look like, that's all handled on the sheriff's side, but it is a good point. How are they getting paid, what's our risk for if someone should, trip while they're working at Hy-Vee, does it now go towards our workers' comp? So Garfield and I can take a look at that and follow back up with the board.
Or even worse, if there was an incident,
Sure.
where does our liability stop?
'Cause they're doing the same,
It don't.
they're
If
doing the same,
if they're in uniform and we authorize them to perform that
they're
job.
doing the same thing at West Fair.
Yeah, same thing at West Fair. If they're out there performing that, we're. Yep, they do it at West Fair, they do it at, Mac Center, they do it at different places, so it's still covered underneath our insurance.
Is that
School events, they still cover
So
it,
that
pretty much
income
24/7 as long as they're performing that type of duty.
Does that income come to the county then, and then we pay the deputy?
I don't know about income, I just know
I
about
mean,
the
if
coverage of.
we're holding the risk, there should be some kind of something for, I don't know. That's for another discussion. But that's something I think we ought to maybe take a look at. What is our risk?
Yeah, what those contracts say.
That'd be good.
What's that, Brian?
That'd be good to know.
Any other
Okay.
questions?
Don't think so. We covered all this earlier.
Yes, we have, I feel like a couple times.
Anybody wanna make a motion?
So moved. I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Jeff, will you sign that? Oh.
Thanks,
Everybody's
Jenna.
gotta sign this one.
Wait a minute. There's some changes that need to happen in that, Brian.
Okay, just wording.
Yeah, there's
We'll-
two edits.
Okay.
None on this signature page.
We have each posted. Oh, I guess I got some right here. I didn't.
Okay, Mark Shoemaker, Director of Conservation, and Jeff Franco, Deputy Director of Conservation. Discussion under decision to approve contracts for park improvements. There you go, guys.
Why don't you guys sit together so I can zoom in on you?
Okay, front and center.
This might be really important, public will wanna know.
Important.
Thanks for having us in here again. We were in probably a month and a half ago, probably 2 months ago, talking about this, and we just want to update you on some of the projects that we talked about previously, and the bids that we got, and our recommendations moving forward with those, and present those to you.
So bids were in the package, you guys, and they cover some of the updates at Mount Crescent we discussed. And so I think the first one in there was for labor regarding the pipe installation. So some of the upgrades that we'd like to make there. Very favorable bid that we received there. Received a few on this one, local contractor, so advantages there as well, and had the price that beat everybody else as well. So on that one, I don't know if you want to go through these individually that way, or if you want to talk about them all at once.
Well, they need to be voted on individually.
Okay, excellent.
Very good.
So, any questions on that particular bid?
The only thing I would ask Jeff is, how confident are we that the proposed, pipe for this project is gonna be, sufficient and, a long-term investment?
So, we discussed initially, the two, materials for piping, the ductile iron and the welded steel that is. And so this, as far as the longevity of this pipe, it actually is better than welded steel. It's coated on the inside and the outside, so it's gonna have a lifespan that's longer than the coated steel. Not as long as the ductile iron, but longer than the welded steel, excuse me. And as far as how well it's going to work, this is piping that's been used in Europe. It is also used in the United States here at one location. Chris, I believe you had a conversation with that owner. A lot of confidence in this. This seems like a really great product.
I don't know if any of you saw that. The impressive part of this is you have a break in a ductile iron pipe. You're gonna have to really make some modifications to get that. It's a bell, and I don't remember what the actual terminology is, but it's a bell bigger at one end, you slide a smaller end into it. So it's a lot more difficult to take out a piece of pipe that could have a leak or a break in it. With this one, this pipe, I noticed that each section, there is a specific clamp that keeps the two lengths of pipe together, making it easier for us, I believe. It would be, hopefully we never have that, to replace a piece of pipe if we ever had one that was structurally deficient or had a bad leak. So I don't have any issues with that.
I don't either. Questions?
So you want a motion then, Chairman
Yes,
Shea, to
that's-
approve the bid for the water pipe project
Correct.
in the tune of to Western Iowa Utilities in the amount of $218,960.
Yeah, I'm gonna get this down, 'cause it's not in the script. 218,000
$960.
Western Engineering, is that what you said?
Western Iowa Utilities. Council Bluffs Company.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to approve this bid for installation. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Motion carried. Next up.
Next up is we just discussed the pipe installation. It's probably best to discuss the pipe itself. It's the most logical. Move down there. So the Albanius pipe that we discussed, which is a spiral welded steel coated on the inside and outside, we discussed some of the benefits there as well with the pipe. So
We've already moved past that one.
that was
That
for
was the
labor,
installation.
labor for install.
That didn't include the pipe?
It did
No.
not, no.
Hell, I thought it included the pipe. Okay, let me rescind my motion. Where is the price for the pipe?
That is in the package as well. And that is with the last bid, Chris, am I remembering that correct?
I haven't seen it yet.
page 123 in the packet. Is the start of that. And the bid, the final number there's on page 129.
I don't know if we got that on the, we don't have page 129 on here.
Are you talking, $252,415.82?
130.
I got the 252.
415.82.
82, yeah.
Is that the end of your presentation today, Jeff?
On the, that's for the pipe and the labor to install, they cover those two, there'd be two more, bids in there to approve.
Pardon me?
Be two more bids to approve after that.
Well, I move we approve.
I mean, you know, we've already approved the labor, you gotta have
So
something
why not?
to spend the labor on.
Yeah. And then the other two are for the equipment, the snowmaking equipment is.
That's correct,
Is
yeah,
that right?
pump station and snowmaking equipment. Next bids.
So with those, with that pipe and the labor to put it in, we're at about 414,000.
We had 218 and 252.
All right, 218,
Yeah.
215.
470.
Oh, 252. All right, that was wrong. 252, so we're at about 207. Oh, shit. Wow. Okay.
Got a motion to approve, look for a second.
Second?
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
Now what page are we going to?
Let's go to page 101, and start the next bid. And that is for the pump station itself.
All of this will be done this summer, is that correct?
That's correct. And then 109,
We don't have those pages, Jeff, I don't know
okay.
what you're talking about. I haven't even found the.
I think it starts on 106.
What's the next one, Jeff?
So it'd be the pump station, which would be.
104 is where it starts.
Online agenda in that packet, it was page 109, but it sounds like those are different
So look
pages
at
for you guys.
251, 349, 43, is that correct?
That's correct.
You said 343.
251, 251, 349,
349.
and 43 cents.
349, you said?
Yeah, 349.43.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, we've got the pipe, we need the pump.
Correct.
Is all of this kind of coming under your expectations for cost or roughly the equivalent with?
Yeah,
Under-
these are actually in line and with the bids that we got, these, not only are the most competitive price-wise, but it's the system that we think is gonna be vested
Okay.
as well, so this is really, it's
Well,
going in well.
I move we approve the amount for the pumping station and accessory equipment at $251, $349, and .43.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carried.
You got one more bid?
There's one more after
Do we
that.
do you want to put a name of who's doing the pump station?
Tech-
Contractor?
Sure, Techno Alpin.
Who?
TECHNOALPIN.
What'd you say, we have one or two more?
Just one.
Okay. Go with that.
Then at the end of those lines will be snow machines as well. And so that's, the final bid would be for snow machines. And in the packet online, again, 122 is the page number.
What's the bottom line, Jeff?
250, 23 and 60 cents.
250 what?
250, 23.60.
Okay.
How many machines are you buying?
That is eight altogether.
So there won't be much to replace after this gets installed, is that correct? Or anything to replace?
There's gonna be, a few additional items, but for the most part, as far as equipment goes, we're gonna be in pretty good shape.
I'm sorry, what was that number again?
$250, $23.60. It's page 120 of our packet.
I don't know where you're picking up the page numbers.
On the,
At the top, when you scroll, it'll show up on the side, 120 of 144.
It does? Doesn't on mine. You have a different operating system than I do, Susan.
Have a different operator.
Well, I would make a motion to approve this final bid at $250, 023.60 for the snowmaking equipment and peripheral parts. Techno Alpine, where are they from?
They're an Italian company
Italian.
with, offices here in the United States.
But they're also doing the, selling you the machines.
Correct, that's the pump station and the machines, and there's advantages to having the same company do those.
Ah.
Big advantages.
okay, got a motion to approve. Need a second?
Second.
Jeff, is this the end of anything for this year?
Still working on a few, I think for this fiscal year, this will be the end.
For next fiscal year?
It will be a few more that we'd like to come with.
Well, right now, you're about $30,000 under your, the revenue that you have.
Okay.
Anticipated revenue from next year, revenue from this year, and some leftover funds that weren't spent. Okay. I'm okay with that.
Got a motion and a second to approve the final one. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Just, and all this is on the payback system.
That's correct.
We worked that out where they will pay the money back.
Well,
So,
as of right now, with what they've got here, this is no tax dollars.
correct.
Let me rephrase that.
Mm,
Let me rephrase that.
Property tax.
No additional tax dollars paid for this.
That's, is that correct, Mr. Chief? That's correct. That works out.
I was on the phone yesterday for about an hour with this lady who is very concerned about her taxes. She's trying to lower her taxes. And she also said that she was tickled to death to be able to go to Crescent and ski. And she was sitting down around the campfire talking to some guy from Kansas City who comes up every weekend with his kids. And another guy from Lamar's who comes down quite often with his kids. And she just tickled to death to be having something like that in the area.
I know we've talked about it, but it's, we just couldn't be more pleased with how things went this past year and with the impact it had on the community. It was really, really positive, so we're looking forward to many more years of that.
Okay, thanks so much. Was that your committee report, Melvin?
I was just. For a little, I know it's tough to spend that much money, but I just wanted to let you guys know that, from a taxpayer who's concerned about taxes, still enjoys that area.
I was up there, just taking a look at things, how things are going during the season. Talked to a few people. There was a group of people there that, when I started listening to their conversation, they didn't speak English. They were from Italy, and they were on a tour of the United States. They happened to be driving through and decided, of course, they skied in Italy quite a bit, so, but they were very, very impressed with what they had there.
Yeah, it's, we have something special, we really do.
Yeah.
I think it'll pay bucket loads back in the future. I really do. That park has become a regional tourist attraction. So Hitchcock Nature Center has really boomed under you guys, and I really appreciate your work.
Bright things ahead too.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Committee appointments. Scott, did you go anywhere?
No.
Okay,
There was.
Tim? No. Susan?
I went to the White meeting Tuesday night in Carson and to the library open house in Avoca. And then I also went out to the secondary roads safety training at Central Shop on Thursday and just thanked them for spending time learning more about safety and attending the training.
I had attended all those same things with Susan. Then I went to a Mount Crescent master plan meeting. And then visited with EMA chairman about water issues and what his plan is for coming up. So they do have a plan, and hopefully they don't have to implement anything more stringent. Jeff?
I have none.
Okay. Appreciate it. Okay. Public comments. Is there anybody signed up? No?
No.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
This Golden Hills meeting, Jeff, that's,
Oh, give me that contract.
that's moved to